The more confidence you get on how you can communicate with patients, with families, with colleagues, the better you will feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are so privileged to have you here. Feel at home, and you can walk around and socialize with people who network. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the CEO, International Empowerment Conference on Healthcare and the Medical Sector. I want to give her a name before you sit. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me and join me to name her the Queen of Healthcare in Canada. So from today onwards, when we talk about healthcare, most especially in the Afro eye, she is the Queen of Healthcare because she has a heart that really passionately cares for the people in the health sector and the people that receive that kind of services. Thank you so much, Kathy, for this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first give you this brief intro. The lady I'm going to invite, she is an expert, an educator, empowerment speaker, certified women in leadership and success coach, known for her energy, humor, and unique experience and expertise. She offers a unique perspective to women and industries seeking to empower, activate, and re-engage their strongest workforce through uplifting keynotes, workshops, and team building. So, unleashes the scientific power of imagination and confidence to reverse the effects of distance, disengagement, and disconnection in the male-dominant industries. High energy, high impact presentations emphasizing self-confidence, motivation, and action with the transformative powers of imagination, courage, and connection. These are unforgettable experiences shared along after she leaves. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Sue Wordsworth to take us into the next session. You are most welcome, Sue.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I can't follow all of that. I mean, that was such high energy. You want to talk about me having high energy? They had high energy. Isn't that great? Yeah. Absolutely. So I was going to start today with a wonderful video. How many of you know Freddie Mercury? Not personally, but know of him? Yes? What was Freddie Mercury best known for? Other than his singing voice and his teeth. Anybody know? No. He did a fantastic Live Aid video, which I was going to share. And he supported Live Aid because he had AIDS. That was one of the reasons he came back to Queen to support Live Aid, was because he actually contracted the disease. How about Princess Diana? Absolutely. We all know Princess Diana. What was she best known for other than putting up with her ex-husband? Thank you for laughing. That was great. She was known for being a catalyst of change with respect to her work in HIV and AIDS. I remember in the 80s, in the height of HIV AIDS, she went and visited people in the hospital and she hugged them. And it astonished the actual world of what was she doing hugging an AIDS patient. And it started us down a path of challenging our beliefs and our misconceptions about what we feel with respect to AIDS and HIV. There's so many things, so many challenges that we've had to deal with respect to that disease. And that's really what I want to talk about today. I'm here for the 2 days, yay, and I'm breaking it up into a variety of topics, but today I'm going to be talking about the individual challenges associated with dealing with patients with HIV and AIDS. And there's so many challenges that we need to deal with. But before I get into that, I am an empowerment expert, so I always like to start my talks with a definition of empowerment. And there's so many definitions of empowerment. But as it relates to the healthcare and medical industries, I specifically picked this definition of empowerment. And empowerment is the process of becoming more confident and better prepared in order to complete tasks and make decisions. So those are the keys of empowerment in any industry, but specifically this one: confidence and being prepared. And those are the areas that I'm going to be speaking about today. Now, I understand that we all have personal challenges as it relates to our occupations or industries, but you know what? Working in healthcare, specifically palliative care, dealing with people that have an end-to-life timeline shorter than ours, it has its own challenges. It has its own areas that we deal with. And there's some specific ones, and I remember when I was researching this, I was looking at all of the challenges that this industry faces. And there's too many. So I picked some key ones that I think are very, very important. And the first one is stigma and discrimination. Not just of the patients, but the people that are treating those patients. They get the stigma and the discrimination. Why should they do that? There's so much out there because of misconceptions that we don't understand. So I'm going to talk about how you can deal with those types of things. I'm going to talk about fear of exposure. That's been started from the beginning. And in healthcare, there's fears of needle pokes, there's fears with respect to fluid contamination. And that's just fear. We shouldn't live our lives in fear. So I'm going to talk to that. I'm going to talk about the emotional stress that people in healthcare deal with. And tomorrow, specifically, why people are leaving that industry. But today, how can we take care of that stress? And I'm also going to talk about a unique challenge that's not only within this industry, but any industry, which is communication issues. How can we better communicate with patients and their families, and even our colleagues, to help make it a better, sustainable life experience? Those are some key issues I'm going to be talking about. And any type of challenge, I always feel that it's so important that we look at it in 3 ways. We look at it through courage, we look at it through confidence, and we look at it through connections. You can tell I'm a big fan of alliteration. I love that. Courage, confidence, and connections. And today I'm talking about courage and confidence. Courage always comes first. When we're going into a new area, when we're going into a new field, we have to tap into our courage. And certainly when we're dealing with stigma and discrimination and fear, courage is what it's all about. So I'm going to focus in on that, and then I'm going to talk about confidence. How can we get more confident dealing with communication? Dealing with those difficult conversations that we need to deal with when we're dealing with patients. And all of the things that they're going through over and above their health situation. To help them get through everything they need to get through. And it's hard. And then the stress that you're dealing with. Understaffed facilities, limited resources, lack of leadership, and I know I can go on, and I don't want to be a negative Nelly because that's not my style. But it's hard. So I'm going to talk to ways that the industry itself can really look to move forward to make it better for those people that are caring for palliative care clients. How is everybody set right now to be prepared for stigma and discrimination, for fear of exposure, for communication, being effectively communicative, as well as stress. And I was going to have this lovely slide. I was going to have everybody take out your phones and go up and try and rank it. And eventually I'd have it at the end, and I'd go back to Kathy and Caroline and say, hey, look how much confidence I created. Look how much courage I created. And it's not going to work. So that's okay. But how confident are we feeling right now dealing with stigma and discrimination? Are we feeling pretty confident? Yeah, fairly. Well, that's good. Fairly. Right? There can always be room for improvement, because as long as we have some kind of fear of discrimination, fear of stigma, fear of exposure, anything that's in the back of our mind, any kind of fear, it stops us. It stops us from doing what we love to do, because it sits there and it nags at us. So, how do we help with that? One way is we gotta be proactive. Hence the conference that we're all at. How are we sending the message? But we're just individuals, and it's so wonderful to have a platform here today, because the power of community and the power of multiple voices. But as a singular voice, what can you do? You can do a lot. You can do so much. What are some of the things that you can say dealing with the challenges? What are the strategies? How can you encounter? And how do you react to those types of things happening? Well, you can help by changing viewpoints. And how do you do that? Well, I want you to understand that people are so focused on what happens outside of our own bodies. And you know what? We've been programmed to feel that way. We've been programmed to view our senses, our sight, our taste, our smell, our touch, our hearing, and we react. But you are in control of what your mind is thinking. You actually are. Yep. The more you take control of what your mind is thinking, the better and happier you will be.
Absolutely.
So when somebody comes up to you with that fear and that stigma, what are some of the things that you can do? You know what? I think we should do a role play. Most people, when I say the word role play, they go, hell no. I don't want to do a role play. And don't worry, I'm not making you do a role play. But what we are going to do is maybe talk of some ways to find ways to be a little bit more proactive in terms of helping change viewpoints. So a couple of the things you can say is, for example, an educational response. And I don't have these memorized, I had them up on the slide, so I do have to check my notes. I understand that there are many misconceptions about HIV and AIDS. Let me share some factual information that might help clarify things. Knowledge is power. We're going to come back to that quite a bit. Addressing misinformation. I appreciate your concern, but it's important that we rely on accurate information on HIV and AIDS. And you know what? That slant that I put on accurate information, it's kind of saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And we don't really want to say that, because that doesn't go over very well. But that's a lot of where that stigma and discrimination comes from, right? It comes from fear. It comes from misunderstanding. It comes from limited thinking. So you know what? Again, let me give you some accurate information, just so you're aware. There's a challenging stigma statement, and I find that a little bit too bold, so we're going to skip that one. But if you want it, I can share with you later. But I like this one, encouraging empathy and understanding. You know, imagine if someone you knew had HIV and AIDS. How would you want them to be treated? What kind of care would you want them to have? That is a very, very effective one. Extremely effective. Because it puts them in the situation to go, oh yeah, good point. Okay. And this one I do like, when we get back to what Carolyn said with respect to inclusivity. Very, very important. In this healthcare setting, we treat everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their health conditions.
That's right. 100%.
Absolutely. Regardless of anything, they should have the same dignity and respect of what is necessary to give them the best life they can have and the best life care that they can have. So these responses, they really aim to educate, they challenge stereotypes, they promote empathy, they foster a supportive environment, and these are the things that we want to practice and learn and have courage about. And so we have confidence to be able to share those things ourselves. So, we'll talk more a little bit about confidence in a second. The other thing that we talk about is positive actions. We're all doing a positive action right now in attending this conference. And we're going to be spreading the word, we're going to be spreading the energy. But the positive actions that you can do, again, let's go back to Princess Di. What a positive action she did in going into those HIV and AIDS hospitals and visiting with those patients and shaking their hands. And I had a beautiful picture up there of her, you know, hugging these beautiful HIV orphan children. It was just so sad, and it was wonderful, but I can't show you that. So you have to visualize. But it was wonderful, and I remember seeing that when I was younger, and I thought, wow, good for her. Absolutely. It's through our actions. Now, I'm not an HIV or AIDS person. I've never had it, luckily. I'm not a princess. But we do all have crowns. Thank you. There's my medical anatomy empowerment joke. All right. But we do have power. And, you know, the fact that she did that, her actions and display of courage, honestly, allows others to realize how wrong many people were with respect to that. Your actions do the same thing. The more that you display positive actions towards what you want people to be thinking, the better display is going to be. And that kind of opportunity for those actions is contagious. If they see you doing it, they will realize that, okay, maybe it's not as bad as what I was expecting. I was, interestingly enough, though, a nurse recruiter in Toronto. It was my first big job. You know, when I was a young person and you finally get that great big job and you're like, woohoo, this is so great. And actually, I don't have a nursing background. That's my sister. She's a nurse. I don't even like the sight of blood. My mom always used to say, you're not going to be a nurse, you know, if you don't like the sight of blood. I'm like, I'm not going to be a nurse. But I ended up being a nurse recruiter. I was one of the first non-medical people to be a nurse recruiter at Toronto East General Hospital. My background at that time, which still is in marketing and HR, dealing with people. So it was a very, very unique experience, me working for a hospital and having to recruit healthcare professionals just like yourself. And I would bring them in from all parts of the world and get them set up and keep them happy. And learn about them and learn about what caused them to enter this great industry and how to keep them happy. And it's a shame that so many of us leave that industry for a variety of justified reasons, and COVID certainly didn't help. Now, when we talk about fear and risk of exposure, knowledge, as I mentioned, is very, very powerful. We have to gain knowledge, and we have to spread that knowledge. We all know, and if you don't, here I am to tell you, we don't get it from casual contact. We don't. There are specific ways for us to contract the illness, unfortunately, and you know what? I've got some statistics. Yes, can it be possible? Absolutely, but it is extremely, I'm going to stress this again, extremely, extremely rare for us to be contracting HIV and AIDS through a needle poke or fluids. And in fact, there was 58 confirmed cases of people getting it that way, and 150 unconfirmed out of 39 million cases of HIV. That percentage, even in 1 year, they talk about 1 million people unfortunately contracted the disease. So if you're looking at that percentage is 0.0002% of contracting HIV and AIDS through those means. How many of us flew here today? You drove. Okay, great, even better. A plane crash, 1 in 1.2 million. A car crash, 1 in 5,000. How many of us drove here? Right? We get into a car, we fly in planes all the time, not concerned about the fear. Why? Because we can't live our lives in fear. If we did, we'd never leave the house. We just can't do that. So knowledge is power. Understanding the statistics, understanding that yes, there's risks in healthcare, there's risks in every industry, but we have to be knowledgeable. There are safeguards. There are safeguards for any nurses, any doctors, any lab assistants that we follow. Just like there are safeguards in the automobile, in driving, and in flying. There's safeguards. So I'm going to talk about confidence. Confidence comes after courage, by the way. And I believe that anybody in healthcare is very, very confident about their medical training skills. They spend a lot of time getting very, very educated and very confident in their skills. But what about the soft skills that we don't get time or even attention about in medical training school at all? Those are the things that we get thrown into that we need to deal with. So we need to get confident about those skills. Effective communication skills, dealing with patients, dealing with what they're dealing with, the emotional states, emotional intelligence, all of those things come back to understanding our own emotional state and understanding our behavior and communicating that to other people. And oh my goodness, when we're stressed, oh, that's not the way I wanted to say it, but boy did it come out the wrong way. So we're going to talk a little bit about communication styles. And I know we started late and I don't want to take up a lot of time, so I'm going to condense a little bit of it. But we're going to talk about your style, starting with what type of communicator are you? Now, again, on the slide I would normally have the old definitions of an introvert and an extrovert. So I'm going to get everybody to just talk to somebody they don't know, introduce themselves, take 2 seconds, introduce themselves and say, do you think you are an introvert or do you think you are an extrovert? And I'm sitting here looking at Kathy going, I bet you she's an introvert, because she was standing up there looking terrified that she was going to have to talk. Okay, so take a few moments. Are you an introvert? You're having a good rest. No, just talk to somebody, the next person next to you, and say, okay, I think I'm an introvert, I think I'm an extrovert. And for those that don't know the definitions, an extrovert is a person that's very talkative, very sociable, and warm. So obviously our MCs and our hosts are very much extroverts. The introvert is a bit more reserved, a bit more quiet, tends to be more interior thinking. So the introverts are too shy to put up their hands. That's exactly how it works. Well, so that tells me a little bit about you already. And all of a sudden, now you're dealing with a patient and you need to talk with them. Now, it doesn't mean that an extrovert is going to be automatically better in healthcare because they're talking to people, and it doesn't mean that an introvert is just going to be smarter because they're thinking all the time. It doesn't work like that. But you need to understand what your style is. You have to have confidence in your style, because once you have confidence in your style, you will be able to talk to the other person. But understanding what their style is the key. See, the golden rule is treat other people the way they always wanted to be treated. But so that's wrong. We need to be using the platinum rule, and the platinum rule is to treat other people the way they want to be treated. So I see Dr. Clem here. Dr. Clem always looks fantastic and beautiful, but I can't tell if she's a huge extrovert or an introvert quite yet. So if I come in guns blazing and she's an introvert, she's going to come back and go, yeah, hi. So imagine a patient is a huge introvert and you have a huge extrovert coming in, guns blazes, and they're not feeling the best already. Yeah, doesn't work that way. And then deal with the stressed families. And when we're stressed, boy, do we communicate differently. So when we talk about that platinum rule, everybody has these types of characteristics inside of us. The first one is about pace, and the other one is priority. So some of us are faster paced, meaning we walk fast, we talk fast, we make fast decisions. And we're focused in on that type of pace. And then we have a slower pace, where they're talking a little slower, they're walking a little slower. And I don't mean slow, I just mean they think more before they talk. I don't do that. I just start talk. Right? So I am what we call an I. And I work on what we call a DISC personality, sorry, it's not a personality, it's a behavioral assessment. And it talks about what is our common, comfortable style. And it's an acronym, DISC. Dominance, influence, steadiness, conscientious. And I'm an ID. Now a D is very fast-paced, so get to the bottom line, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And if I had my hands, I'd be doing a certain action. An I is a bit more of that extrovert, social butterfly, all about them kind of person. The S is all about stability, steadiness, very difficult to read. So ever go to a patient or a family member and you're telling them what's happening, the prognosis or what's going on, and they're giving you that blank face? And you're like, okay, how, do you understand what I just said? Mm-hmm. That's difficult. And then you have the C. Think of very logic, very analytical facts. Asks 1,000 questions. Well, did you do this? Did you do this? When are we going to find this out? When are you going to come back and give us an update? What's going on with this? And it's like, okay. And we all have a bit of those in each one of us. And when we're stressed, wow, what comes out, who knows? But it's great if you know who you're dealing with. And you can figure this out. How fast are they talking? Are they asking you lots of questions? Do they want to know the details? I don't want to know the details. So you can get a sense. The other thing that they're focused in on is, are they guarded or are they open? So guarded with their feelings. So again, you can't read that. Guarded with their energy. Guarded in terms of they don't believe you. They don't trust you. Open means trusting, optimistic. Okay, yes, that's great. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much. Gotta love those, right? And then you have task or people focused. If they're task focused, it's all about the details. Let's get the job done. Now, think of a nurse or a healthcare practitioner that comes in and just reads the chart to a family member. Okay, we have this. Thank you very much. And you know what? A lot of you have been taught to do exactly that. Disconnect yourself. Keep yourself on an island. Make sure you don't get emotionally involved. Just cover the facts. But if you're a member of someone's family that's going through that, you can't always apply it that way. And maybe you want to go through all of the details and somebody's like, I don't care about all the details, just bottom line it. I don't have time for this. What do you mean you don't have time for this? So are we task focused or are we people focused? A way to figure out what you are, maybe you've already figured out what you are, but a way is go to a restaurant and look at a menu. And go with a friend or a family member. If they take forever to go through the menu, they're probably slower paced. If they ask somebody else what they're having, they're probably an S. If they know exactly what they want as soon as they walk in, they're probably a faster paced an I or a D. So are they guarded? Are they open? So if somebody's asking you a lot of questions, not to challenge you, but to understand everything, they're probably a C. If a D is challenging you, yeah, I don't know if you've done all that, maybe we need to get a second opinion, you know, kind of a bit of an abrupt, you know, a bit of a, not very nice. They're probably a D. And I, you know, wants to talk your ear off, oh, I know you have other patients to go, but if you can just, tell me a little bit more, and, oh, geez, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. How are you doing? Are you doing okay? Have you had a coffee break? What did you have for lunch? I'm giving you some exaggerations, but they're probably an I. And the S's are very much the mono, everything's fine, everything's okay. Yep. Are you doing good? Yep. I'm good. And you can't tell. And you might even have patients like that. How are we doing today? Good. So it's challenging. And it's really good to get confidence. So how do you do that? How do you get confidence in these things? And you know what? A lot of it is practice. Practice active listening. Listening to the patients, listening to the families. How are they talking to you? Are they talking to you fast? Are they talking to you slow? Are they hearing what you're saying and they're processing everything before they say something? And the best thing you can do is trying to adapt to their style. Because we all have a bit of everything inside of us, we just have to adapt. So maybe we need to speed some things up a bit. Maybe we need to spend a little bit more time answering their questions. And I know this is very, very easy for me to say because I'm not in it. I get that. But that extra few seconds will make all the difference, not only in the family's life, the patient's life, but your own mental health as well. Because the more confidence you get on how you can communicate with patients, with families, with colleagues, the better you will feel. It is so crucial. Coping skills. So, how do we deal with some coping skills? Now, normally I would have a slide up here and say, okay, how do you recoup your energy? How do we recoup? Do we meditate? Do we do deep breathing exercises? What do? We watch TV, we go for a walk. Very, very important that we have some coping skills. The emotional idea, or the emotional and psychological roller coasters that we are dealing with right now in the industry are high. And we talked about COVID and what it did to that industry, but it hasn't gotten any easier. So how do we deal with some coping skills with respect to our stress management? Well, we can do just some simple deep breathing exercises. I can have everybody stand up and just go. But I can see nobody's doing that, so that's okay, we won't do that. But certainly there's some really good ways. Visualization helps too. This is a specific exercise that I do with a lot of people that feel overwhelmed. Has anybody ever felt overwhelmed? All the time, unfortunately, right? So I'm going to give you an exercise of what you can do when you're feeling overwhelmed. And it's a visualization exercise. And I'm going to tell you it's very, very similar to looking out. You're at the edge of a lake or a large body of water, an ocean, and you're looking out at that ocean from the edge of the beach. And all you can see is this water, this huge amounts of water, and you're going, how in the world am I going to swim that? That's what you're feeling when you're overwhelmed. You're thinking about everything that you have to do, and it's psychologically almost drowning you because you're looking at this body of water and you're like, how am I going to handle all of this? What I want you to do is visualize that, but look down.
Yeah, sure.
And I want you to just see your 2 feet on the sand. And you have a little bit of water coming up to you. That's it. It's just a little bit of water. It's not that big of a deal. Exactly. You take 1 step. What are you doing? You're just in a little bit of water. That's it. Nothing happened. No big deal. Okay. Let's go another step. Not sideways, I'd fall off. But you see what I mean, right? Then another step. And then another. You don't need to do the entire lake. You don't need to do the entire ocean. All you need to do is some steps. That's it. One thing at a time. That's all. So when you're feeling that overwhelmed feeling, just look down at your feet. That's all you need to do. You're standing on your own 2 feet just fine. You're not drowning. You're not going into any trouble. One step. That's all you need to do.
Wow.
Well, thank you. So, you know what? I understand that there are so many things out there. You know, even having an optimistic mindset. Positivity is so important. And oh my goodness, I could spend hours and hours talking about mindset and talking about the power of imagination and the power that your brain has. But being your most positive self, looking on the positive side, what's happening? Don't always look on the negative, look on the positive. That will do wonders, not only for yourself, but for your patients, for your colleagues. Thinking about the positive and what's possible as opposed to the negative of what's happening around you will do so much for your confidence and do so much for your working environment and your coping skills. Why we have difficulty. But it'll help you navigate this difficult landscape. Help the patients deal with what they're going through. Help the families understand that yes, there may be a reason for what's going on and they may not understand what the reason is, but we have to be positive. Because without that, why are we here? Stay tuned for tomorrow when I talk about connections and how to get yourself out of your rut in the industry that you love. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of the conference.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Sue. Another round of applause for her.
Amazing.
Wow, 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 wow. I don't know whether you clicked what I clicked. One step at a what?
A time.
That summarizes my day to day. One step at a time.
That was a wow. A big hand clap.